Remember when I said September was going to be the month of revelation? We've certainly been having a lot of revelations, mostly not good ones, but I just want to point our attention to some of what's happening. And also talk about why we shouldn't be panicking but should still remain hopeful despite some of the things that we're seeing. So one of the revelations that I found quite striking was when somebody asked the head clown how he was going to unite the realm, and he said, "I really don't care." Like, you may have thought you already knew this, but for him to come right out and say it on a major network is a major revelation, because a lot of people who saw that didn't know that before they saw it. In another revelation today, he said quite explicitly that networks are not allowed to criticize him, and they're going to lose their FCC licensing if they do. So with the whole Mr. Kimmy debacle, we were seeing signs of that, and we've seen some earlier signs of that. But for him to come right out and very explicitly say, you know, there's no more free press, and I'm in charge, and I'm going to determine who gets to say what, that's a major revelation for those who didn't already know that. Now, we also had this week the erection of a statue honoring the head clown in gold, which I think is another revelation, because again, it's more evidence of a particular type of flashy circus. But people can talk about it, but when we see this really clear evidence being put forth by the circus itself, that's a revelation. And then let's talk about Rasputin, who has now clearly instigated a conflict with the land of Europa that involved several different countries. And the head clown came out not in support of those countries, but trying to negotiate in support of Rasputin. So again, this is something that people have been talking about, where his alliances, where his allegiances, but for it to come out so clearly is a revelation. And then what's happened in the wake of all of this celebration of a particular figure who, you know, what's the right word? It's hard to remember all the words. Who departed the mortal coil last week. In the wake of that, we've seen very explicit announcements and actions indicating that free speech is not allowed anymore. And of course, we've seen lots of little ways in which this was, you know, we were seeing this, but to have this kind of wholesale, really explicit kind of punishment of anybody who doesn't toe the circus line is, I think, a revelation. You know, they're making it really explicit now. Now, I told a much longer story on the Tube of You. I found it increasingly difficult here, and I wanted to give kind of an overview of a lot of things. And so I told a 30-minute story about the circus over at Jennifer Lisa Vest, if you want to check that out. And I talked about the evacuation of the circus and some of the signs and what we should be looking for and looking at to assure us that this is happening. One of the things that I want to add to that story is that we're going to see a lot of people jumping ship when the head clown starts to be kind of down and out and not really appearing to be leading anymore. That's really already happening to some extent. But as that becomes more and more the case, there are going to be a lot of people jumping ship because they just don't support the other characters in the circus. And now let's talk about good news. The fact that so many people are being highly critical of the crazy kind of love letters that were published that are so clearly false and fake and created by a competent English literature major who didn't get a very good grade. This is really good news, and it's happening from both sides. Circus, anti-circus, circus periphery. A lot of people are saying, yeah, this doesn't hold water. We also have the lovely group of ships that are traveling together in a coordinated effort to the land of watermelon, which is very good news. We also have the UN recognizing the land of watermelon by a very, very high majority. All right, so let me know in the comments, what other revelations have you seen this month, and what other good news have you seen?